Welcome to the Pink Lady Against Scammers podcast. Everybody, you are going to totally love my guest today. My guest is Catherine R. Berra, the author of the book, These Stories Are True, I Shit You Not, a humorous look at online dating for the unsuspecting older human. I love the title of that book. All of it, including I Shit You Not. So tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we're going to dive into the book.
Oh, sure. Hi, Patsy. Hi, everybody. Yeah, I was in Washington, D.C. for over 20 years. I had a career there and was a single mom and literally, I've been all over the place. I'm currently in Colorado again. I moved back here to help my parents, who are both now passed away. But yeah, the whole thing about this book is when I was in my career and raising my son as a single mom, I never really dated that much because it was just too much. So a friend of mine eventually convinced me to try it and online dating. And I was in my early 50s, I'm 60 now. But it was just a series of events, and I could not believe what was happening. And I thought, this is mortifying, first of all. And then the same friend who was my office mate, I'd come into work after these dates and I would tell her the stories and she would say, Kathy, you have got to write a book. No one's going to believe this. I said, well, I don't want to remember it. I don't want to, anybody. But anyway, during COVID, we were all shut down. Now I have a horse, so I could go out and ride in the countryside and get my, fresh air.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah. And,
Godfather, loved it.
oh yeah. Oh yeah. Can you believe that? Um, and she just convinced me. She said, this is a perfect time to do this. And believe it or not, she actually reminded me of a couple stories that I had blocked out of my brain. So anyway, that's how the book came to be. I started putting it together, and I have a really amazing online publishing consultant here in Denver who helped me do the Amazon stuff and, get it edited. And, the front cover is actually me sitting at my counter pointing at the ceiling, and I then cartooned myself, and that became the cover. So, you got to save money here and there as a self-published author. But so that's how it came to be, and it just has taken on a life of its own. And it went #1 on Amazon, I think, in 3 humor categories a couple times. So it's just crazy.
I love it. So the one story, since I started reading it this morning, the first story was the guy that you met and you talked about your horses, and you didn't click and you were trying to politely let him down.
Oh, the one, the horse guy? Is that the chapter? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because where he says, well, your horses aren't going to keep you company, and your horses, basically starts to talk about the Godfather reference of the bloody horse's head in the back.
Right. Well, and again, this is a friend of mine who was a realtor, and again, these stories are not just all mine, and that's what I wanted to really make a point of. Their friends, and they're also men who told me crazy things about what they went through. And that woman, she was a very professional person. She said, look, we're not clicking. And he was probably in his early 60s, this guy. And, basically just said, I hope your horse, because he was upset that she spent time with her horse, which we must do because they're expensive creatures and you have to, spend time. And basically he said, I hope that you find as much company as that guy in Godfather did. And of course he's referring to the horse's head in the bed and all that. And I'm like, oh my God, the things. And again, you think as an older adult, you think this doesn't happen. This happens to young people. And oh no, it is a crazy adventure, that's for sure.
And another thing that I caught in one of the chapters was the junk pics or dick pics.
Oh yeah,
that you were getting. Yeah.
Oh yeah. It was like I say in the book, it's like it was the modern day Hallmark card. You, especially when you're at your office, like the one story I tell, the guy, I was planning lunch and never met him, and the first thing he sends me when I give him my phone number, it's like, why do they think that's something we want to see? It's just so crazy. And again, I'm not 20. Maybe it's more common with the younger people, but this was in my office in DC, and I'm getting ready to meet this guy for lunch, and he sends me that picture. I'm like,
he was introducing himself.
Oh my God. Yeah, so it was crazy.
I get some of those with the scammers that I deal with, although I don't know if it's really theirs. But I have cruel responses back at them just because I know who they are. And one
Hmm.
of them is, gosh, that's so tiny. I can't even see it. Is that your thumb or is that all you got? But
Well,
then
there's
when I,
another chapter in the book. It's called Cairo Johnson, I think. Oh no, wait, I can't remember. That's his name. That's the nickname I got gave. But he was a professional, doctor of chiropractic. And yeah, that whole story talks about how he kept sending me these references to the number eight and like a screenshot of the calendar. And then I'm like, am I missing a holiday or something? I mean, I didn't. And then he basically, he's driving down the highway going 88 miles an hour and he takes a picture of the speedometer. I'm like, I honestly thought I was missing a holiday. I didn't even understand why he kept sending me these references to the number eight. Then he eventually said, "Well, that's my side." I'm like, that he was basically referring to his nether regions, and yeah, yeah. So crazy.
I got the story of Thomas and his girlfriend. It was an unusual name, and I don't think I could pronounce it
Oh,
correctly.
Belkey, is it Belkis?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
I came up with a little. I just thought it was hilarious that story about she lost all this weight, but then when you guys went out to eat, she joined, him or joined you both, and you went to the fried chicken place, and she like ate all this chicken,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and then wanted to get ice cream, and then wanted to go to the sex toy shop.
Mm-hmm.
So I came up with chicken, ice cream, sex toy shop. Oh my! If you're familiar with the Wizard of Oz. Um,
Yes.
how is Thomas? Did he get away from her?
Oh yeah, he did. He got married and he's with a really lovely attorney that
Oh,
she's an
good.
attorney too. But that was just crazy. And I think that story I put in there because it's a male perspective, but it's also like, what are we doing? This is what my, you know, question is throughout all these stories. It's like, I don't know if you read the one about the doctor. Well, he was a professor. I don't know if you got to that chapter where he, was we dated a little bit and then we got together and months later after we decided there was no clicking, but we, saw each other again on the site. And I don't know if it was the algorithm that just kept popping things around, but he it was the same thing. It's like he went out with a woman. He was telling me during our hiatus or whatever for 4 months, and she was a pharmacist. I mean, she was a professional, but she had three kids by three different dads. And so I'm like, red flag. But at the end of that story, he goes to her house to surprise her one day, and she's in there with two of her ex-husbands having a threesome, and he's at the front door. And I'm like, what are we doing as human beings? You're like, what? And then maybe this is, I don't know. What I always wonder too is if this is just how it always has been, and now we're able to, you know, promote it on social media. I don't know, but it is just bizarre land. I'm telling you.
Oh my gosh. Of course, my favorite chapter, even though I didn't get through the whole book, was the soldier story, which is what
Hmm.
I work
Right.
with is the scammers pretending to be
Yes.
soldiers. Uh, Very good that you picked up the red flags right away. You
Well,
know,
as you know, yeah, I mean, again, this was several, quite a while ago. But it was like his grammar was weird. His love for me was instantaneous. I'm like, oh my God, this sounds. But the sad thing about that chapter, well, there's two interesting things. That guy, I found out because he had pictures of himself. Well, it was a military guy, in Northern Virginia where I lived, that was very common that people were in the military or
yeah.
government. So, there were probably 14 or 15 pictures on the site. But the other weird thing was, oh, I'm in at this base in Northern Virginia. And then a week later, oh, I'm in Afghanistan, and then it was just, I could figure it out. But then what I ended up realizing is that he had stolen those pictures from a military obituary site. And that infuriated me because I thought, people steal pictures all the time. I think it's common. It's almost impossible now not to have that happen if your pictures are on social media. But for him to have taken them from an obituary site, this man, this military person, had been killed in action. So I tried to pursue that a little bit, but there was nothing I could do. But the most interesting part of that chapter, and for your listeners, it was basically a guy who was a scammer. He was trying to scam me, and he sent me this poem, and I realized it was a sonnet because I write poetry also. And I'm like, that looks really familiar. And the way I caught him was I went on Google and I put in the sonnet into Google, and it listed it as, I think it was a Middle Eastern sonnet, but then right below it, it said they were using this stuff for scamming. And it was like 3 or 4 articles about that same thing. I'm like, oh my gosh. But also, so I don't know if I mentioned to you, I'm on TikTok. My friend who convinced me to write the book convinced me to go on TikTok, book talk, to kind of passively promote the book. Well, I start making these little videos, and the video I made about that chapter, which is literally like a 5-second video saying when a military guy you're dating or talking to online says he's a soldier in Afghanistan and he's going to, after training, he's going to take a nice warm bath. I'm like, yeah, that doesn't happen, right? So that video now has over 1 million views, and it sparked this conversation, which I might do a sequel to the book based on these women writing. And again, I'm trying to see the comedy in it, but it is so sad, Patsy, as you can know,
Yeah.
that how many people, men and women, fall for this stuff. It's a $1.2 billion business these
Yeah.
scammers get from people. So anyway, that is the other crazy thing about the book. I am on TikTok. It's under Catherine R. Author, and Catherine with a C. And yeah, some of my
Catherine,
videos,
Ca- Catherine Author.
Catherine R. with
Catherine
middle
R.
initial R, Author.
Okay.
And
I'm gonna find you.
oh gosh, I used to
Follow
do a
you.
dating scammer post of the day, and so it's really kind of taken on its own life. But yeah, that chapter in particular really resonated with people. And again, these women, they write responses and say, "Oh yeah," and I can't tell you how many I have of the same. I'm a military. I'm on a boat in the middle of the ocean.
Oil
We,
rig.
we're hijacked by pirates, and I need iTunes cards to be able to keep talking to you. And it's like, what? And then the one lady was so funny because they always say, I have a child and my parents are watching the child. I'm a widow and my wife was killed in a tragic accident. And that's just constant, constant. And this woman said the last time one of them said that in a script, right, to her, she said, you all should start a support group because I can't believe how many men have lost their wives in tragic accidents. Because it's basically they use a script, right? And they're all saying the same thing. So
Yeah. One of the things that you brought up when you were starting the book was you were talking to your friend and she's like, you need to write a book.
hmm
That's how I started my blog in 2016. I would tell my hairdresser and my best friend, I can believe this story. And that's how my blog started, was because you got to put, and that mine are screenshots of actual conversations. I
yes.
now have audio conversations I record.
Wow.
So people, oh, you got to check my TikTok is
I
insane,
will.
and my YouTube because I post everything there as
Okay.
well. But I mean, it's all to just educate women, like, hey, this is what they say, this is what
hmm
they sound like,
hmm
and I mean, I on my Saturday night lives on TikTok, I actually pull up my Instagram and we'll talk on live with,
Wow.
if I can get somebody to
Uh,
talk.
yes, you'll have to send me your TikTok. I
I
mean, or
will. I
okay.
will. Because what I do is, which I have to finish cutting last week's live because I think I talked to 3 or 4 guys last week and I got one of them posted. I know some weeks if it's too long, I just put it on my YouTube channel. Like one I had was like 45 minutes long, and I don't normally go that long, but I put it out there and I don't want to chop it into 3 or 4 pieces
hmm
to put on there. So I just do that and then I hang a sign up. Here's my YouTube. Go check it out. But I found it's a great, I do mine with a lot of crazy humor because that's me.
Right.
And I always believed in laughter is the best medicine when you're going through all this stuff. Now, I was never
hmm
scammed ever.
Right.
I just learned, people, you don't know about that. No, I didn't know. And so that
And do
kind of
you
start.
I have a question for you. Do you think it's a lot of older women, or do you think it's all age ranges that get scammed? I'm finding it, mainly because I focus on women in my age range. I mean,
Yeah.
and men too on TikTok. I mean, although I get a lot of different people from all ages, and my book talks about situations for all ages. But do you believe that they really prey on older women who might not be technologically savvy or maybe just a little naive, right?
Um, from reading stuff, it is older women who are lonely, a widow, maybe not attractive, maybe heavy set. Um, for the younger ones, I'm learning more from other people about sextortion, where I mean, I even have the other women. They'll be like, I sent him pictures, and now he's threatening to blackmail me. And
Hmm.
I have a friend, American citizen, who lives in Ghana, and a lot of times I put her in touch with put them in touch with her because she can talk them down, saying they're not going to do anything. They live in a
Hmm.
foreign country. Don't worry
Hmm.
about it, you know,
Hmm.
because that's what I want to say. But I was like, I'm not sure. But my friend Star said, no, they can't do anything. She'll even get the guy's contact information and mess with them, you
Hmm.
know, just to expose
Wow.
him. You know,
Right.
she's wonderful. And so, but we're running into a lot of this extortion. You know, they send pictures. I think youngers might do that.
Hmm.
Anybody actually does, but from my experience, it's mostly the older women, you know,
Yeah.
40 and over, 50 and over.
Hmm.
I'm an ideal candidate, but they don't really know that I know
Oh,
stuff,
yeah.
you know, because I'm older, I'm heavy, and I don't care. And but I'm like their perfect target. I put myself out there with I'm lonely, I'm looking for a husband on Instagram, on my Suzanne Sugarbaker Instagram account, because
Hmm.
that's the name I go by when I'm
That's
pretending
so
to be
funny.
them. Yeah, I loved her and Designing Women.
Yes.
And so out there, I put it out there and I'm baiting them in a
Dating them.
web.
Yeah.
Yeah. Only to like cut them down at the end. Haha, you're not getting anything, you know.
Wow.
But I get a lot of, you know, ladies that will email me or message me on TikTok and God, I wish I would have found your found you here a year ago. I
Oh,
fell for it. And, you know, and and I try to tell them, look, you fell for it. Okay. It's going to take time to get over it, but don't beat yourself up about it.
right.
You know, just remember you are awesome and
Hmm.
you'll get past this and take what you've learned and help somebody else so they don't fall
Exactly.
for
And
it.
that's what I try to do. I mean, I wrote the book as a comedy, but the conversation has opened up so much to what, just the human condition in a current modern day society and how this online dating, online swiping, and just the autonomy of it has created just a really gross, icky world of nasty people that try to take advantage of others. And again, the conversation can stay funny and ridiculous, but I think, makes me sad. One of the ladies that responded to me had lost $40,000 or something. And, I don't know how in any way we could ever regulate it or get, these people. And I know they work in, what do they call them? Call centers. And it's like a university of scamming, so it's very, very unfortunate.
Yeah. Well, what are some other stories that you want to share that I haven't gotten to in the book myself yet?
Oh,
If
well, there's
anything
just
stands out.
yeah, there's just always some crazy, and I think after going through that for so long, I do have a good story in there about this woman that, she was a little person, but I mean, I had applied for a job and talked to her on the phone quite a bit. When I got over to the office to interview with her, she came to the counter and I was looking around, I couldn't see her, but anyway, she was a little person and she was just this bubbly little thing of light, and the reason she was needing to replace herself is because she was going to get married. So the story in the book I tell is just that this woman was so excited. She had been on online dating for little people, which you think everybody is looking for someone, right? And I guess just the story in that was that she just was so positive, and she said, she went through a shit show of experiences too, even in her, world. And so I guess the message in that story is that we all go through the same thing. It's not, and I feel like that's why I didn't want to write the book. I was so mortified by the stories that I didn't want to share them. But then my friend said, you don't realize how many people have gone through this sort of thing. So yeah, I mean, there's so many stories. Let me see if there's one. I mean, the horse guy, there's another horse guy in the book I talk about that.
A huge fan of the Godfather movie. So when I read that,
What
it was just like,
Oh
oh my
yeah, I mean
God.
that guy basically he said that. But there's another chapter, and it was a guy who I met online, and he was into horses, and I have a horse, so he was that he wouldn't let up, and he wouldn't leave me alone, and he came to my barn one day and he wouldn't leave. And then I had to go do an interview for my college graduate program. And he followed me over there. And then he followed me back to the barn. And then I wanted to go to lunch and he just would not. I mean, it was 6 hours, 6 hours. So anyway, the weird thing about that story is that, I mean, I was literally trying to get rid of this guy for 6 hours. And, everyone says, well, you could have just told him to go F off. Or, I mean, I'm like, yeah, I'm not, I was being nice. Anyway, I want to say 6 months later, the algorithm popped him around again. And he sent me a note that said, hey, I think we have a lot in common. Maybe we should get together. I'm like, are you really kidding that you don't recognize me? Are you really serious that we didn't spend 6 hours one day and you don't remember that we did that and you're sending me a note? And he said, and then he called me the B word in his response. He says, I didn't have my glasses on, you beep, and, F you. And I'm like, oh my God, so that's the kind of thing, you deal with. But, there's all sorts of stories in here. I don't know which one stands out the most, but I think,
Now
the one about the car.
you
Pardon
have an
me?
adult son. How did he feel about all the book? Because I read
Well,
something in your foreword about
yeah, I'd be mortified. I talked to him about it. I mean, I sent him a bunch of them. He lives in New York City, and he handed them out and put them in places for me. I'm not sure he ever really read the book, but I think oh yeah, God, there's just so many. Oh yeah, the one about the guy that I went out. But my son, getting back to that, I think he's shocked because I never really dated when he was living at home as a single mom. I just didn't want a man. I mean, I dated, but nothing serious. And when he was about 11, I think I dated a guy for about 2 years off and on. But I think the man stayed at my house one time. I mean, I just didn't feel that was a good idea because
understand. Yeah.
my son hasn't seen his dad since he was 12. He's one of those guys. So,
Oh yeah, we
um,
got one of
but
those too.
yeah. But there's another story in here where I met this man. He just was really sweet, when I met him. So we met for dinner and we got to talking. And I really love nice cars. I mean, I know that's weird, but I used to drive a BMW, all that. Now I just drive a car that smells like a horse here in Colorado. But anyway, and so he started talking about this car group. He belonged to a touring group. They drive around and he wasn't married, no, didn't have any kids, but by the end of the date, it was like 2 hours in, we talked about music and he started telling me he loved this group and he pulled out his phone to show me a video of it. And this man was 48 years old, I think, at the time. And he showed me this video of like a mosh pit at this small venue in Denver where the guy that was the lead singer was in a Pope hat and a skull mask. And it was like devil. I mean, I looked at him, I said, what? He says, well, I know a lot of people don't like that kind of stuff, but it's like, what in the world would, you know what I mean? It was so, I can't even tell you the disparity between what he looked like and acted like and the job he had and then this. And I said, oh my God, I can't even believe that someone would be into that kind of thing. And he says, oh, because he was, never had kids, never been married. And I think he was just still, acting like he was 18. So anyway, there are that kind of stories, and just, yeah, just weird experiences. That's all I can say. You have to get the book and read the book, people. No,
Yes,
it's on
well,
Amazon. Yeah.
promoting it. I'll print out the
Yeah.
cover, and tomorrow night on my live, I'll do a
Yeah.
video as well. There was another lady when I started my podcast actually 3 years ago this month, and the first guest the first episode was just me babbling to introduce myself, and then the second episode was two ladies who wrote a book. The one they're sisters. The one reached out to me on LinkedIn, and so I bought her book, read it right away. I'm sorry I didn't do that with you.
That's okay.
But
Mine's a quick read. Yeah.
it is. And so I ended up having them as a guest because the sister was scammed. The one sister and the other sister was helping her get through it. And so I did a lot of promotion for that book. And so far I'm loving yours because it's making me laugh.
Yeah.
And as you said earlier before we even started recording, you gotta laugh.
Yeah.
It's the stories, some people may take it the wrong way, but you gotta
Mm-hmm.
laugh because really It is that these are very funny stories, the ones I've
Yeah.
read so far, you know.
Yep.
So,
It's almost unbelievable sometimes. People, there've been reviews left on my Amazon page like, how can a woman go through this many? And I'm like, well, look at the title of the book, because I don't believe it either that I had to go through this. And I don't know about you, but I just don't even engage in it anymore. I can't get myself, like, every now and then I'll get a Bumble app on my phone and I'll start looking and they say, oh, you have to pay to participate. I'm like, yeah, I don't think I'm gonna.
right,
Yes, I can't
right.
get my energy into it because it's just what's going to happen, and
Yeah. Hey,
so
you got
it's
a book out of it, a good book
yeah,
out of it.
that's true. That's
So,
true.
yeah. So now, do you have a website at all?
Yes, it's CatherineBerra.com, Catherine with a C, and that's Berra like yogi, and Berra. And I have my books, and just on my media page, I have, a list of all the podcasts I've been on. This one
Yeah.
hopefully will be on there soon. I just love talking about this topic, and again, it's not just about the horrible stories. It's like, you are doing a great service. I know it's not easy. I can't imagine what that's like, but God, I wish we could catch these guys sometimes, because it's just crappy, excuse my language, but why in the world, do people do this kind of thing? And again, it's a really interesting study in the human condition. Like, what motivate, I mean, it happens to men too. My friend's father-in-law, he's elderly man, and they were looking at his finances, and they were looking at all these withdrawals from his account, and they found out he was sending it to some woman in Russia, so it's a statement about loneliness, but also about just how naive some people are. So I just think you're doing a great thing by doing that. I mean,
Thank
I
you.
don't I don't know if I can get myself to do that. I do the dating scammer post of the day. And I do say on TikTok, let's watch out for each other. Let's
Yeah.
be aware and inform people, because
Yeah.
it's just rampant. So,
Yeah. I mean, I've met so many wonderful people on TikTok. There's other people.
hmm
We all are doing the same education. We all do it a different way. I do
hmm
mine with humor.
hmm
And because some of the stuff I say back to these guys, and it's just you got to check them out because they are. I
I
when
will. Oh,
when I need a good laugh, I watch some of my videos
yeah.
because somebody will message me, how do you think to say all that stuff? And I go, it's spontaneous. I don't
Right.
sit and work out a story. And what's funny was the last couple times on my Saturday Night Lives, I don't have anybody in the box. And so I have my followers, they'll type stuff in there and they're like, don't forget to mention this. So I
Oh,
worked
yeah.
it into the conversation. Last week I was just like trying to work everything in. And but no, it's there is a group that I do work with, and I did have her on my podcast, her and her partner on my podcast a year ago, December. And it's a agency called Advocating for You. It's advocating against romance scammers, but the website is advocating for and the letter U. And they've
Okay.
gone to DC. The guy that she's partnered with was a retired military, and his pictures continue to be used today.
Wow.
And so, I mean, she's doing what she can.
Right.
And they can, they've been to Washington D.C. several times, and it's just a difficult
I mean, you think
situation.
about it. I mean, we couldn't regulate controlling someone's bank account from them sending stuff to these. I had a friend whose sister was talking to a guy for a long time, and they decided, never met him, of course, never, and decided when he was out of the military, they were going to start a business together. So he will send us $5,000 to this bank account, and we'll get it going. I'll be there by next week, and we can, blah, blah, blah. Well, she went to her bank, did that, and then she got in trouble because they were claiming she was laundering money.
Money
And of
mule.
course, as soon as she sent the money, the account was shut on the other end. So that's why she got in trouble, because they said, oh, well, that's fraudulent transfer, whatever. But she was just so scared because and of course, the guy just, she never heard from him again. But it's horrible. It's a horrible, ugh. But yeah, again, you have to keep a sense of humor, but we also have to protect each other from it.
Yes, yes. Catherine, thank you so much for doing my little podcast. I,
You're
I
welcome.
I can't wait to read the rest of the book. I was
Oh,
cramming through it this morning, and I mean the stories are great. And
Yeah.
like I said,
I'll have to watch I'm going to definitely watch your lives.
yeah, I mean, like I said, the videos are all up there. I have been doing audio recording since 2020. So I pull out the good ones and I post those. And
Okay.
then like the lives, I got video editing software so I can cut in and just post that, in case you missed my
Right.
live, here's what happened.
Right.
And so, and then like on Wednesdays, whenever I do a live with like a special guest, I've had
Oh, okay.
Jersey John on, who was hilarious, Chad Huber, who does catfishing the catfish. Well, John Huber,
Oh,
not John Huber,
yes, he is funny. He
yeah,
is funny.
Jersey John does words with scammers, which is
Okay.
hilarious because that's how he met his first
That's
scammer.
funny.
And then I had Gypsy, who's a military guy and then I had Kathy from Advocating for You. This Wednesday, I have Bryce Stanley, who is a comedian but does really funny scammer videos. So he's
Okay.
gonna. I always on Saturdays, but like on Wednesdays I do that. So I mean that's like an hour and a half. Sometimes I'll stay on if people want me to, but most of the time I'm like, okay, I just kind of want to do that. I have so many other things I got to do. I can't do as much on
Right.
TikTok as I'd like because I'm
Right.
constantly posting
Right.
and such. But I have a couple other things out there to get other people to come on and talk about
Right.
their place,
Well, have you ever had on TikTok on your comments when they say when you do in a video about scammers, then you get a scammer trying to get in your comments? Have you ever had that? Like, oh, if you've been scammed, call this guy.
fake hackers. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah. I go through most of my comments every day when I can and delete those.
yeah.
And I've done videos. Actually, I did one where I did my terrible New York accent with my hat to the side and just, talking,
Uh,
Godfather. I channel the Godfather and I channel my terrible New York. Although my friend that lives in New York says my accent's better than hers. I go, I don't think so. I do, but I educate about that thing. And the
right,
most everybody knows. And I will get a lady that will ask, is this guy legit? I said, no, watch this video.
right,
They can't get, because I went as far as playing with two of them last year just to see where it would go. And I posted the
right,
story on my
right,
blog because I wanted to know for myself how
right,
did this work, and then
right.
I could educate everybody else and tell them, no,
Well,
it's definitely.
speaking of this, I just thought of something that happened to my friend's mother in assisted living. Now with this AI voice recognition stuff, these people are calling elderly people in the assisted living places saying, "Grandma, they go on Facebook and they'll look for a video of a teenager or something, and then they'll use the AI, call the person in assisted living and say, Grandma, I need money. I'm really, and her mother believed it and sent the people money. But that's another, really crazy concept to think about. They're using AI voice recognition to scam people too now. So, oh my
And
gosh. Yeah.
videos too as well. I don't know if you watch Chicago Fire. Taylor
Mm-mm.
Lautner or Taylor Kinney, who plays he's been on the show since the beginning. Somebody was giving an example of Taylor lips moving, but it wasn't his voice,
Wow.
And so, as I always mention, we got to up our game because now they're using
Yep.
AI to fake videos.
Oh my
I
gosh.
try to tell everybody, look, if you're on a dating site, um, if the guy doesn't live within 25, 50 miles of your house, don't waste your time
Right.
because they're
Right.
probably not real.
Right.
That's my experience. That sounds like,
Exactly.
and then again, like I get all mine on Instagram. I'm on Plenty of
Mhm.
Fish just because I see guys whose pictures get used over and over. We refer to them as frequent flyers. So I go through there, and when I see a frequent flyer, I'll send them it's all my information, but it's Suzanne's name but my
Right.
pictures.
Right.
And I'll,
Wow.
well, I just got a dude the other day sending me a message, and I can tell by what he wrote me right away. That's a scammer. So I screenshot it because I'll do videos. I learning how to do fancier stuff on TikTok, and
Hmm.
I would put these conversations behind me. So that's going to be a video. I'm going to put that up there, and I make
Yep.
faces or laugh or whatever, just so you can see. Look at what
Yep.
this guy wrote me. I'm like,
Yep. That's,
I
I honestly do. I do a dating. Well, I haven't done it as much lately, but a dating scammer post of the day where you get these responses from these people that are just like, "Are you really kidding me?" So
yes,
nutty.
yes. Thank you so much for coming on. You
Thanks,
guys have to
Patsy.
get Catherine's book. These stories are true. I shit you not. A humored look at online dating for the unsuspecting older humans. I love that. We're older humans.
Yes.
And it's Catherine R. Berra. Berra. It's on Amazon. I got it on my iPad. Get it, read it, share it with everybody.
Thanks, Patsy.
Will you take care and thank you so much?
You too, and I'll look for you on TikTok.
Most definitely.
Okay. You have a great day.
You too. Sure that you get Catherine's book. It's on Amazon. I got it on Kindle. You can get Kindle, paperback. It's a great book. This is the book I'm promoting this year. As you know, last year I promoted Shelley Frost and Linda Young's book about the story of Linda being scammed, as I will continue to promote it because it's a good book. But this is my new book for this year that I'm promoting because the stories that Catherine have shared are freaking hilarious. So be sure to check it out. It's funny, it's awesome, and I absolutely love it. You can follow her on all the social media. She has a webpage, catherineberra.com. Go there. You can see her other book, which is a collection of lyrical poetry. So when I finish this one, that's the next one I'm going to get. I'm not a poetry person, but I got to read it because Catherine wrote it. Anyway, that's it for today. Thanks for tuning in. I always appreciate you all very much for taking time out to listen to my little podcast. It means the world to me. And as usual, you can find me on TikTok, Pink Lady Against Scammers. Be warned, there are 9 or 10 clones of my account out there. Look for the one that uses my actual picture, and I have 29,000 followers. That's the real deal. It's crazy. And also, I do lives on Saturdays at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. And Wednesday nights, I try to have guests on. So tune in on TikTok and I'll post when I'm going to have a guest on. So, anyway, thank you so much for tuning in. And as I always say, they don't love you, they love your money. Welcome to the Pink Lady Against Scammers podcast.